I basically used this show as an opportunity to experiment, which was kind of the hook that drew me in when they first approached me or when we first talking about doing the show. And for me, I mean, my work, I work in a lot of different mediums, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do, figure out something I wouldn't normally do anyway. But a big part of what I've been working on for the past year are a lot of drawings of this one kind of particular, I don't even know what to call it, like a kind of abbey or crypt space or something, these kind of endless arches, and I was really trying to figure out like why, like what that architectural space is about. So what this show became was multiple variations on this architectural space, but hopefully not in a very literal way, more in the way in which it kind of operates in my work and my studio, which a lot of stuff happens very quickly in the studio, and I was trying to replicate that here. So one part of the gallery is I've actually recreated this space. When I was doing the drawings became very much about going back into this 1 or 2 point perspective, like really forcing the space on a 2D surface. So making it in real scale has been really exciting because I've never, I would have never thought to have done that because something about the drawing seemed to answer that. And now that I see it in space, it's actually doing this thing with perspective, which was really exciting and weirdly unexpected. Like it didn't really occur to me that would happen. On the other part of the gallery, which was kind of an alternate idea, like I approached the show with 2 different ideas and I just decided to do everything. And it's also kind of comes from the drawings, which are these brick masonry fragments, like architectural fragments. And I've done that for previous work. In this case, I simplified it a little bit, but the main piece is what I've been kind of thinking of as an orphaned column from one of these imagined spaces. And there's this whole other idea that I've been dealing with in my work, just this kind of relationship between performance and architecture and trying to work that out. I guess the way I work is not something like a thesis that I propose and then execute it. It's messier than that. And so I do stuff and it actually takes me a long time to figure out what the hell I did. So that's kind of what the show is trying to figure out something I did a couple of years ago and also these drawings. And I also kind of quickly remade these stilts, which was also the basis of an older performance. And before coming down here, I was kind of dipping into my archive and just looking at work that I've done over the past, like, I don't know, 10 years or 8 years, and finding all these, like, it's this experience where you think like, oh, I've been working on this kind of one thing, but you realize I've been working on this the whole time. This kind of weird space, and it got even crazier than that. And so I've been telling this anecdotal story about I grew up in a small apartment in New York, and there was a downstairs neighbor who was a painter, and she had painted a portrait of me and my mom when I was a kid. And the painting, which I discovered recently, is actually me on a little tricycle in the middle of a brick arch, which is the entrance to my house. So it's like, I just had one of those moments where normally I'd be like, oh, that's so funny and weird, and just kind of keep it to myself. So this time I'm trying to like incorporate that into the show somehow and really try to figure out a larger thread that, when you see someone doing performance, you think instantly like, oh, 70s or Bruce Nauman, or this kind of art history performance. But what if the idea of performance is tied to something other than the history of itself? Like what if it's tied to portraiture or an idea, like an idea of biography or portraiture or architecture? I don't know. Like for me, that's a radical idea. For other people, I think it might not seem so, might be more obvious, but I think because things like biography and narrative have been very absent from my work, that's sort of dipping my foot into it a little bit. So.